All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to crack the code on what it really takes to go from just speaking good English to speaking English that sounds totally natural and fluent.
You ever feel like this? Like, you know a ton of words, you can definitely make your point, but something just feels a little off. You don't quite sound like a native speaker, and you can't figure out why. Trust me, it's a super common feeling, but the good news, it is totally fixable.
You know, there's actually a name for this. It's called the Advanced Learner's Plateau. And it's that frustrating point where just learning more and more vocabulary doesn't seem to make you sound any better. You know the words, but your fluency is stuck.
So, what's the secret to getting off that plateau? Well, it's not about cramming more words into your head. It's all about connection. It's about understanding how words have their own little social circles.
Yeah, think about words less like individual items in a list and more like best friends that are almost always seen together. Getting the hang of these powerful partnerships is the absolute key to natural speech.
Now, the official term for this is collocation. It sounds a bit academic, I know, but it's a really simple idea. It just means certain words love to hang out together. They create these little phrases that just sound right to a native speaker. This, right here, is the foundation of sounding truly fluent.
And you see this everywhere with simple noun combinations. Think about it. A driving license isn't just a license that happens to be driving. And paper clips are more than just clips made from paper. Two separate words come together and boom, a totally new idea is born. This is kind of level 1 of word partnership.
But that's really just scratching the surface. The real magic, the thing that's going to make you leap forward, happens when you start mastering how to pair adjectives and nouns in these powerful, really specific ways. This is where your English starts to sound seriously impressive.
Okay, so let's get practical. This is all about taking that idea and actually using it. We're talking small changes that make a massive difference in how natural you sound. Okay, let's take a super common example. Imagine it's incredibly windy outside. Your first thought, which is perfectly correct, is to say there are very strong winds. And yeah, people will understand you, but it's kind of basic.
So how can we level that up? What's a phrase, a word partnership that a native speaker would probably use instead? Just take a second and think about it.
You'd say gale force winds. See? It's just so much more precise, so much more descriptive, and it immediately shows a higher level of fluency. And this pattern is everywhere. Instead of very heavy rain, you get torrential rain. Instead of complete confusion, you have utter chaos. These aren't just fancy synonyms, they are the right partners for the job.
Okay, so once you start getting the hang of word partnerships, the next step is to really start having fun with it, to start painting pictures with your language. This is how you add personality and real sophistication.
And a really fun way to do this is with idioms, especially when we borrow from the animal world. You know, someone isn't just crying really loudly, they're howling in pain. You weren't just busy running around, you were buzzing about all day. It just makes your language pop, you know? It's so much more memorable.
Food is another goldmine for these kinds of expressions. If you pretend you don't want something just because you can't have it, that's sour grapes. Have to admit you were totally wrong? Well, you have to eat your words. These little phrases pack so much meaning and culture into just a few words.
All right, the last piece of this puzzle is all about nuance. See, real fluency isn't just about the words you choose, it's also about understanding these tiny, subtle differences in meaning that can change absolutely everything.
Let's take irony and sarcasm. People mix these up all the time, but they're not the same thing. Irony is when you use words to mean the opposite of what they literally say, usually to be funny. But sarcasm? Sarcasm has a bit of a bite to it. It also means the opposite of what you say, but the whole point is to mock someone or show you're annoyed. Getting that small distinction is a huge sign of an advanced speaker.
So let's wrap this all up. The journey from good to fluent isn't about passing some giant memory test. It's about building a skill. It's about training your brain to think about language in a whole new way.
So here's what you need to remember. First, start thinking in partnerships. Always be listening for those collocations. Second, paint pictures with your words. Use those idioms. Third, get obsessed with the small details, the little nuances that make all the difference. And last, and this is the most important part, you have to practice this stuff. Don't just memorize lists of words, actually try to use them when you speak and write.
And that's a wrap, but really, the learning starts right now. So I've got one last question for you. Based on everything we've just talked about, what is one new word partnership
one collocation or idiom that you're going to try to use today.